according to the textbook, the first thing you want to do is just pin your 1-inch mark at center front, and give yourself a second pin at the waist at center front, because we don't want this to be pulling away as we drape. So I'm going to give myself another pin right there just to hold it. And then you want this guideline that you've drawn right at the apex, at the bust level. Right? Then you're going to take the side front piece, line up the horizontal line, and make sure on the side that you have enough here for seam allowance and your armhole. And make sure you have enough fabric over there. And then, but you also have to bring this close to where the princess line is. So make sure you have enough there for your seam allowance, right? And for right now, I'm going to just put a couple of pins to hold it. I'm not making any commitment to this quite yet, just to hold it in that place. All right. Textbook next says to take the center front piece and fold it on the princess line, and then pin these pieces together. Okay, now you might find that it's wanting to form a little bit of a bust, but for now I'm going to let that just remain soft and come away a little bit from the princess line, otherwise I'm going to get an angle, and I want to keep it straight. So the look of this is like a 60s boxy top or dress. Okay, let that fall into place. Keep your horizontal lines equal, and put a few pins. Don't pin to the form, just pin it to itself and let it just fall. Okay, so those are just aligned. Now the next thing I'm going to do is take the small front piece for the yoke, so it's the shorter of the two, and I'm going to place this so that the center front lines up. I have some overlap here, so I have my seam allowance, and make sure I have enough here at high point shoulder. Right, so this is just a holding place again. And whatever makes you more comfortable, you can either fold this inch back and line up the seam, or line up the line you've drawn on the seam. Either way is acceptable. The book shows it like this, so that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to take my scissors and clip the neckline a little bit. Get rid of some of this here I don't need, and kind of clip toward my neckline. Not too deep yet, because I'm not ready to make any commitments here yet. I'm going to draw in with the tape a neckline that I want. So I don't want the actual jewel neckline. I'm going to bring it a little bit away. And this is a style line, right? So we're not worried about the form anymore. We're going for style. And just make sure you leave yourself enough so that you can do the seam allowance here. The other line they want you to draw is an armhole. This piece of tape and make an armhole that I want, and it needs to be at least an inch below the plate. I'm going to say I would prefer it at about this horizontal line. open armhole. All right. Now, for design purposes, I can make my armhole extend out. I can add a sleeve. If I want to add a sleeve, I've got to go back to the ridge for a regular set-in sleeve. But for the sake of the textbook, this is what they're giving us, okay? So they're giving us just a little bit inward seam. If you want to go do your line on the actual shoulder ridge like that for your armhole and add a sleeve to your design, you could do that at this point, okay? And you could take your block as a starting point for the armhole shape and the armhole sleeve if you've got a good sleeve, right? So next thing I want to do is fold this yoke up to give myself the finished line of the yoke. And I'm pressing this in. Now, when I get this flat later, I want to make sure I know exactly where that fold is. So I'm going to give myself a really good crease so I can draw that line and then add my 1/2 inch seam allowance to either side. Alternatively, I can do that with the bottom piece right now. Okay, so I really prefer lead pencils for draping because it's a soft, it's a soft lead. You can use chalk, you get a little thicker line, so either is good. But depending on the line you want here, if you want it to be a little bit lower, you can go a little bit lower. Okay, I see it. You can change that. And this design is yours, okay? I'm not going by exactly textbook measurements. You can change it up a little bit.
In terms of the neckline?
Yeah, within reason, because you've got to keep this yoke intact for the lesson.
So you can't like go like all the way down here because then you'll end up breaking up the.
If you know what you're doing, Angie, you could.
Oh, well.
So if you'd like to try it, I'll help you with that. But, yeah, it's a little bit more advanced.
Yeah, I don't think I know how to do that now.
So I'm going to go ahead and draw in my line here. Once I like it, I'm going to go over to my armhole. A few more pins yet.
It's not one to stay in place, is it?
And again, this is a point in time where you can pin to the fabric, not the form. Again, because it's not fitting exactly the form. There's a tendency with beginning students to want to pull the muslin and mold it like it's, right exact. But our clothing isn't like that. Our clothing has style ease. So our basic blocks have fitting ease, and our clothing designs have style ease, right? So obviously, actually this dress is kind of what we're doing from the yoke down instead of the bust down. So it's going to go fit and flare, okay? All right, I didn't think about that when I got dressed, but it just so happens. Okay, so I can draw in my armhole here. And this is a sleeveless one because I'm going a little bit deeper. If I want to add a sleeve, it would have to have a bigger cap. Okay, now in the front yoke, we want to have a single notch a couple inches in, just so we know that we're on the front. Okay, that tells us that's the front yoke. Here, where this princess seam is, and then you come down to where your line is, give yourself a notch on either side of that balance line. Again, so you know where the pieces go back together. All right. Come over to your side seam. I kind of like the blousiness of this right now, so I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna make it, a mermaid dress. I'm gonna let it be a 60s full blousey dress and put just kind of a holding pin, but I want to draw in my side seam. Just so I know where that is, and I can decide if I want to give more style ease there later, but I know that's where the side seam is, okay? And that also is going to need, just to know where you want to end the armhole. Okay, so that's ready. Again, make sure you know where that crease is. Make sure you know where that crease is, because these are going to be your lines, and I'm going to draw in here as well. So that's going to be my stitching line on the underneath part. So to that I add a 1/2 inch, to this I add a 1/2 inch. Same thing here. Okay, let's just kind of find out where that line is and sketch it in. Okay, so sketch here, right? So mark it up with pencil or chalk as much as possible. Can you see?
What was the line for again?
It's to tell me where the princess seam is coming together, because I pinned it to the fabric, and when I take it off, I don't want to lose that spot. I want to know with the pencil where it is. Okay. All right. So now the front is done. The back is pretty much a repeat.
So we're marking where the princess seam is, but we're not actually making it fitted.
Correct. So this is what it looks like in the book.
You know, I think it would look kind of cute if it had like a heart, like neckline, like at the like bottom where the yoke
I think
is.
so too. I'm really into that sweetheart thing.
I love sweetheart necklines.
Okay, so now in the back we want these pieces to do the same thing. So I'm going to give myself some overlap here, get my balance line to line up with the front, and just temporarily place this piece. Get my center back here. Line up the balance line, and again, just temporarily place these pieces. Okay, so you get this line, and make sure you have enough overlap for seams on each. Oh, and before I take this off, I also I want to get my shoulder. So I've marked from my lines, I have that, and I've marked my shoulder. Okay, so in the back, continuing on the side seam with the horizontal line, on the back near the princess line, I'm going to fold this piece under and let that drape and hang. Just giving myself a pin on center back, not to fit, but just to keep it from pulling away. And then once I decide where I want that line to be, I'm going to go a little bit closer to the princess. I can pin these pieces together. Again, and then I can, if I like it, I can go ahead and draw that line in. And the difference on this one, again, crease that so you know where the place is. This one needs a double notch because it's the back. Okay, so this is going to sew back together with a double notch. And then I'm ready for the yoke. Again, just make sure you have enough overlap here for your seam allowance, and then we can start clipping this away for a neckline. Now again on the back, if you wanted, you could do, like Angie's asking for different design lines, you could do a V-neck back, right? Or you could do, if you even wanted to, you could go through all of these and do a plunging back. There's different, whatever you want to do with your tape to get your creativity going, right? You can just, this is the fun part, guys. So, so once you know where you want to go with your design, you can do that. I'm going to keep it like the textbook for now, for simplicity's sake. And the most important thing is to make sure that it matches your front neckline. All right, so when it comes back together, it needs to line up with what you've drawn in the front. Okay, so I'll put a little pin there for now and draw that in. And the textbook doesn't give you the back, but it's basically repeating the front. And then you make that true up. And then as far as the armhole goes, same thing. Okay, so the back neckline comes around, meets the front. You want that to be nice and smooth when you get to your pattern, no jaggedy lines, just round that out. And then make my armholes come together here. And back into this armhole shape. Okay. And then in the back, and once you're done with that, you're going to fold up your yoke. Give yourself the line where that's going to go. And this is going to have 2 notches here, so you know you got the back yoke. All right? So that's the extent of the drape. Thank you.